The Around the NFL podcast is not holding in at training camp.
All right, from the Chris Wessling podcast studio, it is Around the NFL. I am Dan Hanzus, joined by the heroes, Gregg Rosenthal and Marc Sessler. Hump day. Hump day.
Is it a hump day, though? It's the excitement of football being back. It's back.
It's back. Everyone. Actually, I don't want to start the show with sad news.
Sure.
Marc, but I do have to share some tragic news out of Latrobe, Pennsylvania.
Sorry to hear that.
Where I regret to inform everyone listening right now that the 2023 Pittsburgh Steelers died. Reporting to camp later than all 31 other teams in the league. It's over. And this is data that is backed up year after year. The team that reports last finishes last. Steelers fans, you heard it from me first, but I express no pleasure here. It's over. Come back next year ready to go earlier than the rest of the group, not the last.
I guess what surprises me is because not only during the run of this show, but throughout the course of our lives as football fans, the Steelers have always been a well-put-together organization. They draft well. They develop players well. They seem to know how to tackle a regular season, and especially under Mike Tomlin. There is so much data that supports that the team that shows up last is essentially you're offed. Why would they be behind the ball there? This is a Detroit Lions trick from the past.
Right. It's the first thing they teach you in analytics school. Day one, whoever shows up last does worse. And it's a big loss for Marc, too, because he famously this offseason predicted they were going to win 12 games. And
ain't that the way, Marc?
You know what happened to teams I jumped on their bandwagon last year. It was essentially one death after the next.
The Steelers just got ahead of it by falling behind. And I guess I should note on the other end of things, the first team to report way back on July 19th, the New York Football Jets. The Browns had the option to report the 19th. They chose to party a couple more days and report the 21st, Marc. I know that doesn't matter to you at all.
No, but I think
Hall of Fame game.
I think that plays out correctly with what probably will happen to the Cleveland Browns this season.
It is quite a move by the Steelers. Like most of the league, the majority of the league, showed up to work on Tuesday, started practicing Wednesday, and the Steelers said, you know what? For all the extra days off we have and the lack of tackling and this and that the CBA has built into, actually, we just need another day.
Yeah. Rest in power, Kings. Around the NFL, we had a great ep with Connor Orr on Tuesday. Team slogans. We're going to dig in deeper today with Rapsheet in studio. I was trying to think. We had Rapsheet infamously, the Peacemaker episode from Santa Monica last summer.
Yep.
We've had him I think remotely before. How many times has he been in the studio? Not too many times.
I don't think he's ever been
handful.
in the studio.
I think
really?
Maybe not this studio. I think so. One.
I don't think he's been in this studio.
The Chris Wessling
It's
podcast
always
studio.
been at combines, owners meetings, outdoor type stuff.
So we'll dig in with Ian on a bunch of things. The running back, Saquon Barkley, coaches on the hot seat. We'll ask him about maybe a budding internal rivalry with the Pellraiser, who's making moves, whether Ian wants to admit it or not, for the crown of top insider at NFL Media. It's fair to say, Gregg, I know you're on top of those things. Pellraiser, I know they're golf buddies, but he wants it.
It's been a trend. Ian notices it. The Pellraiser's profile, especially with the news drop on this show, has been rising.
Yeah. Pellraiser. I'll ask him about the news drop, too, because I'm sure Ian...
It's got to get under his skin.
Yeah. All right. Anything else? Marc, what's going on with your laptop? Yesterday, you didn't have any laptop at all. Now, for the listeners, and check out the YouTube show, you have it's a silver glitter cover to your MacBook, and then what appears to be a black cat or kitten covering up the Apple. We don't have a corporate relationship with Apple, the NFL, so that's smart from a business standpoint.
Yeah.
But kind of an insane laptop for a middle-aged man to have.
I don't deny that that
Well
take.
said.
I don't deny that. But I was in a pinch. I told you that my actual work dished out laptop has died,
Yes.
and this
You led with that after our long
right.
break.
This
Famously,
profession
yeah.
matters to me. Showing up to work and researching for the show and being capable matters to me. So in my downtime between our last episode and this, I did the requisite work to find new technology.
But you chose to
Good
put
work.
that cat sticker on. You could have put any sticker on. But I do know that a cat in any of your IG stories, followers will know this. People got to check Marc out on Instagram. That a cat has entered your life that I think you have a loving relationship with.
Yeah.
So it's a big cat.
Well, it was a
summer.
bit of a 180 because I spent 4+ decades thinking the cats were total junk, and I kind of learned that's not true.
I thought we were on the same page with that. Everybody kind of knows. Here's another hot take. And Eric, we need to work out something behind the glass. I had a hot take about the Dodgers yesterday. Let's calm down with the cats.
I mean, I don't think I'm riled up. I
Right.
just think that my opinion has changed. I'm not.
They're not loving creatures.
Am I running up and down the hallway at work telling people about cats?
It's ignorance. It's just plain and simple ignorance. Like when you kind of rule out or judge any
I've tried with
creed,
cats. I've tried it.
species.
Why would you need to judge any animal, Dan, or animals?
That's what we do. We offer opinions and insight here on Around the NFL. Cats
Well,
are trash.
don't
Eric,
agree with this one.
you're a big-time Dodgers fan. It occurred to me after the show, I buried your favorite baseball team, saying the 2020 World Series title was Fugazi because of the shortened season,
Correct.
the pandemic, and all that. How do you feel about that? Do you think, because I think, for instance, you got 1988, the Kirk Gibson year, and then if you go to Dodger Stadium, you'll see right next to 88, 2020, and I think there should be an asterisk or something next to it. Is
I
that-
don't disagree completely with it. That's why I didn't really push back. I think, though, that season is odd. My defense on that is always it was level playing ground across the league. Everybody had the same amount of games, same little bubble atmosphere in the playoffs. And I know for a fact if any other team would have won that 2020 year, they would have claimed it just as much as I do.
Yes.
But
As a
I'm-
Yankee fan, I probably have to say you're right.
But
about
I'm
that.
not. But I am not running around toting that one. I'm not
Right.
like, oh, you remember 2020? That was fun. I mean, it was fun. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I watched most of the games. I watched the playoffs.
Right.
But I'm not like, trust me. My wife bought me a shirt. Has a shirt, big ring on it. It says World Series Champions 2020. I don't wear that.
You weren't even on the earth when Kirk Gibson
I
did
was
his theatrical event.
I was not. No.
Okay.
So.
The brake lights and
Yeah.
Chavez Ravine
Right
went
over.
off over the right field bleachers. All the fans that had left thinking Eck was going to close it out until he hung that slider. Greg, but was it you that pushed back, or you had stated that maybe the Bucks title was a little fugazi?
No,
I
you said
That was.
I didn't say that.
That was Connor.
Oh, it's Connor.
Oh, Connor did. No, I thought the Bucks title was legit because they played the full season.
I think they're all legit. They played what they could in many obvious ways. It was harder for those group of men to achieve that than in any other year. Of course, the fan enjoyment it wasn't the same
Right.
at the time because they couldn't. It was for the Dodgers because you couldn't be there. You couldn't get the whole buildup of a whole regular season, so they missed out on that. But I think diminishing those accomplishments are stupid.
Are you going to have a take at some point in today's episode? You shot me down on having a cat take. Now I can't have a COVID take about
You can have
sports.
whatever take you have.
Yeah,
you
but it's a
want.
better show if we don't agree.
He keeps dismissing my takes.
Well, they're absurd.
All right. I got takes. You're dismissing them.
We all were gone for a few weeks. We you know how they're always like, oh, Kobe always worked on one thing every offseason. He's like, you got to add something to your game or else you're falling behind. And then this year during my offseason, I was like, disagree as much as possible with Dan's takes. That's going to be my new thing.
I'm trying to picture what the workout is. You're just watching old ATNs and stuff and be like, wrong.
His cat
wrong.
take's ridiculous. Doesn't he know my lovable Morris from childhood?
I didn't, but maybe a nice feline. Let's do some news.
Chargers coming into this one just 42%
Oh, it's money.
on fourth down, but 2 of 3 today.
The original
Rush
voice
four,
of
Herbert
God.
has time, all kinds of time. Rolling to his right, to the end zone. And that pass is caught. Touchdown! Chargers. Herbert to Keenan Allen, the captain with the connection.
There he is, the voice of the Chargers. And yes, the former voice of God for the Around the NFL podcast, Matt Money Smith with the call. Justin Herbert, yes, he is different. He was different from the moment he landed with the Chargers and came into the lineup under strange circumstances when poor Tyrod Taylor got an injection on some sore ribs that led to a pierced lung, as I recall, and the Chargers are kind of forced to put in the rookie, and then he entered the lineup immediately and became a star. And cut to a few years later, and the Chargers get it done with Herbert, keeping him in the long term on a 5-year, $262 million, $262.5 million contract extension through 2029. It's just the latest domino, Gregg, here with these quarterbacks. It was Lamar Jackson before him, and it will be Joe Burrow most likely after him, who will make just a little bit more money than Herbert did. It's kind of funny, Gregg, in this era where, and we were talking about, like, you were coming down hard on agents in the past few months on this podcast. It's like all this seems to be is you just have to move it a little bit past, and everyone does their job and everyone's happy. So I could tell you what the Burrow contract will be. It'll be a little bit more than this one in terms of guarantees and the ability to say he's the highest paid player ever. Right now, Herbert is. Congratulations to him and his whole fam. And Chargers fans, your team got the deal done. A cheap franchise historically. Pay out big for your QB.
It's great to see, if you like Justin Herbert and the Chargers in any way, that the Chargers just did the thing that quality franchises do. It wasn't drawn out. I think there's a few different things that are interesting about Herbert, but just on the money situation, he did accept probably less than he could have if he wanted to push it. And everyone has their different reasons for that. And I think I'm done with sort of judging players for what they wanted to do. When you look over the entire 7 years, because it was an extension, his average is more like 42. The total fully guaranteed money at signing was like 133, which, considerably less than Lamar and some of those. So it wasn't as good as Lamar's contract, really. And it's fine. There's a no trade clause in there, which gives him some leverage down the line. It gives the Chargers some flexibility. To me, it looks more like the Patrick Mahomes deal. It's 7 years in total, where it really gives the Chargers a lot of flexibility of how they want to move money around in the future, and that he didn't push for everything to be up front. He basically said, this is enough, and I'm going to be on this team a long time, and I'm not going to push this to the nth degree.
I'm with you. Sorry. It's like he's making a hill of cash.
Hairball there.
I don't know what's going on.
It's time for his first analysis of the show. He waited for the moment. He has a cough button.
I mean, this happens like once every 3 shows, so I don't think it's anything new. It is such a manageable cap hit over this year and next. And then they'll just readjust the money at some point and move it around again. And I think the Chargers, if you looked at these the Bengals and the Chargers, so both this a bit of hesitation from the fan base, like, can the Bengals get this done right? Can the Chargers under the Spanos family get this done right? These are not like the most cash-rich franchises around. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
And the Chargers just went and did it. And they did it with no drama. And I think that has a lot to do with Justin Herbert, who's a no-drama type of guy, and it fits their organization perfectly. And Tom Telesco has talked in the past about having zero fear about making this deal happen, because he was baked into the Colts front office for 15 years when they continually built around Peyton Manning and his deals. So this is similar to that. I think Tom Telesco, the Chargers, there's an era of disappointment about how every season seems to end. But you look at what he's done, what he's built, the quarterback he chose, the roster around him, and it's like, if you remove some of the kind of bad vibes around the team coming off last season, there's no reason they can't be an AFC title type team. The roster is strong all over the place.
I want to believe.
Everybody wants to.
I want to. It's tough though.
What did they blow in the playoffs? What was that?
27-0.
27-0 was their last game they played, and Herbert has been so great in his 3 years as starter, and yet the team is 25-24 overall since he took over as a starter. It's like, for me, this is the right move to do by the Chargers. I love Herbert just like everybody else. He's fun to watch. I would really like to see the organization now move forward Yes, they did make the playoffs last year, but it was a horrific embarrassment for the organization, how it played out. Let's see them make a run in the playoffs. Let's see them get to the divisional round or even the AFC title game, because you do have the quarterback to do it. We always talk about it. We say the roster's there, and we can point to bad luck and this and that. I think there's a lot of pressure on the Chargers. Maybe we'll come up later with Ian as well, to make a run this year and show us that, yes, all this work building up to this, including now locking in Herbert, has made you a Super Bowl contender. Show it to us. Don't do it again. Don't do the same thing again where we're building this team up next summer as, oh, it's all there. It's time to run. It's time to go. Come on.
The one thing I'd say, though, is that last year Herbert, the one thing I love about him, we all on this show love watching him, but he battled through so much pain and physical pain. And it's kind of, you forget about some of these injuries. He could barely move and run and throw. And it took him a month plus or 2 months to kind of get that confidence back, I think, in his own body. And it's he never complained. He never flinched. I mean, the dude is just everything you'd want in a quarterback. And it's I want a fully healthy season from Justin Herbert, can get to all these places we're talking about for the Chargers.
We did QB rankings with Jordan Rodriguez, Marc, and the hardest thing for me was Herbert versus Burrow.
Yeah.
And I still would take Herbert. I actually would take Herbert over everyone except Mahomes. If I could just pick one, even Josh Allen, because I just think you see it all. You see everything. He's only been in the league 3 years. It's easy to forget that. His QB index, for instance, year-end rankings, was 9 as a rookie, which is outrageous. That you could think of him as a top 10 rookie. I had him 4th in his second year. You had him 5th at the end of last year. That's just a crazy way to start your career, mentally, physically, everything. I think the offense will open up things for him. He leads all quarterbacks in history in completions, touchdowns, yards through 3 seasons. I know it's a different generation and everything, but that's just wild to me. And if the Chargers somehow blow this, you drafted in a row Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers, and Justin Herbert with literally no time in between, right? Was there a season without?
No, because
Herbert?
we always talk about the Green Bay Packers fans, Chargers fans, had that quarterback.
And I know it didn't happen for Brees. They only ended up getting 1 year out of him. But the facts are you drafted Brees, Rivers, who I believe is a Hall of Famer, had at least 5 top 5 seasons. I think Herbert's going to have even more than that. That in a row, then it's on the organization, to your point, Dan, that you're not making Super Bowls. Come on.
To be clear, I'm not putting the heat on Herbert to be better. I think Herbert's a stud, and he did battle through a really nasty injury he suffered early last season. Yeah, let's see what happens.
And one little nugget, I think that they recognized he was paired with the wrong offensive coordinator in Joe Lombardi a year ago. Kellen Moore has spent all offseason. They know each other, they're friends, and it's just been totally collaborative. And I like the whole idea of Justin Herbert being completely unleashed under Kellen Moore versus what happened a year ago, where he led the league in passes to running backs. It's there was a lot of Drew Brees' sort of check down and late era Drew Brees. It's this is not that quarterback.
Well, he was hurt too. Same point.
Yeah.
Maybe they changed the game plan.
Well, I think in general, I think was not a fit.
Kellen Moore is good. That offense in Dallas was
well,
very
that's
good.
A great point, Marc.
There you go.
I wonder
who is that?
I think one of our draft columnists at the website.
One last point before we move on. All this Patrick Mahomes, we don't have to have discourse about how bad Patrick Mahomes' contract is every time. It doesn't have to be a part of the conversation. Patrick Mahomes agreed to that contract. He's happy. He's a champion. I've just watched on the quarterback's Netflix show the estate that he's building with his wife in Kansas City.
He's doing fine.
Beautiful. They're going to rework the contract in time, and everything's going to be. We don't need to talk about it. He's fine. He didn't take a big L on the deal. Maybe it's team friendly. Maybe that's helped Greggy build the champion around him. I'm just a little sick of that one. Do you disagree with that take as well?
No, I
kind of liked it when you were disagreeing with everything.
Unfortunately, I think he can do what he wants. He's doing fine. It's mildly annoying, if you're Patrick Mahomes, that Jaylen Brown makes more money than you, but that's just different sport. It's a totally different sport.
Yes, that is.
They
are
true.
very different sports.
Now in basketball,
football is completely different than basketball. Here we go.
If you're a sixth man who can play a good 25 minutes a game, you're good on both ends, you make like $18 to $20 million a year. Like very few NFL players can do that, and that's just like you're coming off the bench.
I mean, I feel the same way about baseball contracts. Some just out of control.
Why? What's wrong with the baseball contracts compared?
I don't know. Half of them just
they're
sitting around
guaranteed.
eating like.
You don't want the players to. You don't want guaranteed money for the players. You want it to stay in the owner's pocket.
No, that's not where I'm coming from. Half of them just sit around eating sunflower seeds.
Guaranteed money. Either goes in the owner's pocket or the players.
It's the salary cap, yeah. I think if Justin Herbert,
CBA.
If there was no salary cap, Justin Herbert,
big corporate interests of America. That's what you're doing.
You think that's what I'm doing?
That's what this is about.
I don't believe that's my angle.
Brock Purdy, good news for the Niners. He's ready to go, quote unquote, according to John Lynch. He had a elbow injury, suffered in the playoffs, led to surgery. The hope was that he'd be ready at some point this summer, but he's cleared to practice. And with all the marathon discussions around Trey Lance, the former first-round pick, Sam Darnold, who entered the fray this year, if things work out, Mark, how Kyle Shanahan hopes, it will all be for naught because Purdy won't have any setbacks, and week 1 he'll be on the field.
Yeah, I mean, a couple months ago, I could have seen a reality where like someone like Sam Darnold is starting the first or second game of the season. If Purdy weren't ready, and if Trey Lance, I think, is still someone that if you're the Niners, one of the best things that could happen is you still play Trey Lance a bunch in the preseason. He looks great. Maybe you trade him. But you also, I think, behind door number 2 is like I'm like pro Brock Purdy as much as anyone around, but like we still need to learn and discover if he is that guy we saw from that incredible run at the end of last year, which is so improbable. Like, is he that player, or like with an off season of players diagnosing more of what Shanahan does, getting to know Brock Purdy more as an opponent on tape, like maybe that he brings him back down to life. And then you have Trey Lance, and it's like it still seems to me like a very muddled situation with a lot of questions.
But we did get an answer, and we say it throughout the offseason, like, okay, when they show up for camp, you learn a lot. Some of these guys, they say you're going to be back. They're not back for a long time. Some of them, like Purdy, are surprisingly ready to go. We didn't know. I think they were tamping down expectations because they didn't know, and they didn't want to set anything unrealistic. But they say no restrictions, and that's sort of not true because he's going to only practice 2 out of every 3 days. So, for instance, today's the first day, and he's out. But
sounds restrictive.
But he is fully practicing in the other days. And the big headline to me out of this was they made it clear he's taking the number 1 reps. They're not messing around with like, oh, we'll do a little Lance, we'll do a little Darnold. They're like, no, Brock Purdy is taking our number 1 reps on the days that he's playing. Now, Lance and Darnold, it works out with Purdy out every 3rd day for a couple weeks. So we'll get their chances too. And Lance just seems to be ahead of Darnold. But that's a big statement, Dan, that it's like it's Purdy's job. They're not really messing around with a bat.
Yes, and that's the right way to play it. He's earned this opportunity. The one thing I'll say before we hand out lollipops, let's check it back in a couple weeks.
Sure.
He's throwing the ball a lot and how his elbow is reacting to that. He's obviously not going to be taking hits or anything, but we got to see if that elbow can play the guitar. That would be very
hold
impressive.
on the lollipop if you're Brock Purdy.
We're just not going to pass him out yet. Let's pass out a lollipop, though, to Andrew Thomas, the left tackle of the New York Giants, who signed a 5-year, $117.5 million contract extension with the Adam Schefter reported the deal includes $67 million fully guaranteed. Thomas was one of those guys in, I want to say it was the 2020 draft when there's a bunch of tackles available. The Giants were in that mix in the first 10, 15 picks, and they hit on the right guy. Last year, PFF graded Thomas as the league's 6th best pass blocking offensive lineman, a little more middle of the road, Greggy, as a run blocker according to their analytics, but the Giants like him a lot, and now he will be protecting Daniel Jones in the long term.
Great reminder for fans, let's say, of Evan Neal, who's also on the Giants drafted in the top 10, or Ikem Okonwu last year for the Panthers. Like, it takes a while for offensive linemen. Andrew Thomas was filleted in the radio New York media for being a potential bust after a pretty rough rookie year, and then he's just been fantastic the last 2. And it's a reminder, look who they've given they gave a lot of money to Dexter Lawrence, a lot of money to Daniel Jones, a lot of money to Andrew Thomas. Gettleman is really having a renaissance. Saquon's
right.
Where's it does show you
stipend to Saquon, but he got paid.
Right.
Well.
The positional value is not helping Saquon because everyone else is getting paid. But Gettleman, and he had some good picks.
A lot of money, and Barkley did get some vouchers for like free energy shakes in the team commissary.
Makes up for it.
Right. Well, not free, but subsidized. He's paying only like $3 for what should be like a $6
It's a
energy
steal.
shake.
That's a steal inside that building.
Right.
You got to remember to bring the coupon, though.
Right.
Because sometimes you get to the front and you're like, oh, I got the coupon, but it's back at home. They're like, no.
And I should mention they only supply him with the blender and the ingredients. Saquon has to make his own.
I still think it's a fantastic deal for him on that front, on the shakes front.
The Bears have signed tight end Cole Kmet to a 4-year, $50 contract extension, according to Schefter. $32.8 million guaranteed. Woo-wee! That's a lot of money for Cole Kmet. But apparently they see him, Marc, as a Justin Fields field stretcher or first down getter or red zone stud.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan Poles, back in January, they kind of quizzed him like, you just had a really rough season win-loss wise. Like, who are your like blue chip players on this team? And you like probably wouldn't think there's too many of them, but he mentioned him.
Like before the question was even out, he's like, Cole Kmet.
Yeah, he came running to
like
he came running to the room with that answer. So yeah, maybe part of it is just like they like him a little bit better than the average person, but I think he's an ascendant guy. Like he seems to fit really well with Justin Fields. Well, you're right. They have to get it right, but he also there's some, I don't know. Sometimes teams do things that are like a little bit more than just the on-field performance, because he grew up. He's grew up a Bears fan. His dad was with the team at some point in the 90s. I mean, there's just a lot going on where I think the
famous Marc prep work here.
No, but I think the Bears are trying to become something, and like I think he kind of just fits. And you know, I can think of like when the Browns paid David Njoku, I was like, I really like David Njoku half the time. And then he's killing you with a killer drop in the fourth quarter. He looks the part, but it's
I like Njoku a lot. Think he's gonna have a big year.
I know you like him a little more than I do. I think.
I do.
But
I think he's a Pro Bowl.
Would you agree that he's a little hot and cold?
Enigmatic, yeah, for sure.
Kmet's I like Kmet better than
enigmatic. Did you call him
Njoku?
Is it enigmatic? Did I say it wrong?
Yeah, no, that you're calling him enigmatic.
Yeah,
Njoku.
What does that mean?
Like mysterious.
Yeah,
not unknowable.
So I had it.
Yeah,
sure.
A little up and down.
Why did you just
kind of work?
I was just making sure I like, I'm actually agreeing with your.
He's
take.
He's a playmaker that has mental lapses occasionally, but I believe with better quarterback play, he could ascend to the next tier of tight ends. Go ahead, Gregg.
This is, I think Ryan Poles, the GM, also spending the cap space they have now in a way that they can save it for next year, because everyone got all excited about how much cap space the Bears had going into the offseason. They did what they wanted to, but they still almost had too much. I think there is such a thing as too much. They still had a ton just sitting there, and now you spend it on Kmet now. Maybe it's a year early. I think it's a good value deal. I like Kmet. I think he'll be more consistent than Njoku. He only turned 24 this offseason, so he was a very young rookie. That's another position where it takes a little bit to get going. He's a nice little player.
All right, Titus Howard with the Texans, Uchenna and Nwosu with the Seahawks also get new deals, so they are happy and healthy in the bank account. And Gregg, now I'll turn it over to you for a little bit of an injury minute from training camps around the league, except for the Steelers because they just started.
All right, back on the practice field. No pup list for these gentlemen. Michael Thomas, how about that? He's back again.
Right.
Shaq Leonard. Shaq Leonard, this was a little bit of a surprise for me. I'm going to keep an eye on that one. Javonte Williams. We don't know if he's fully back, but he's not on the pup list.
That surprised me.
That's a good sign.
His knee was jacked up.
That's big.
Kyle Pitts, who's had this strange injury. I'm keeping an eye on it, but he's back. And then John Mechie, the Texans draft pick from a year ago who overcame leukemia. So cheers to John Mechie, because he was also sidelined in the offseason just with an injury. The people on the pup list, Dan, Jonathan Taylor, this one caught my eye. Looked like he had a procedure done this offseason.
On his ankle?
Is it maybe he's still overcoming that? I need to check that.
I don't like that.
The injury minutes
falling
falling apart. Breece Hall on the pup list. Von Miller, no surprise there. And then Teron Armstead, the left tackle, who always seems to be hurt for the Dolphins, had a procedure that no one knew about in the offseason.
And he hurt himself working out. I mean, he's trying to stay healthy there, Mr. Armstead.
Jonathan Taylor, there's something popping there. He's made it clear he's not. He's maybe the most vocal in terms of unhappy running backs out there, because he would be up for a new contract.
He wants a new contract.
Right.
This is not a great
kind of a mess for
entree
him,
there.
So he doesn't have a lot of leverage in that department.
I don't like the Von Miller thing either.
Yes, the ankle surgery was earlier this offseason, recurring issues. They don't believe it's going to be a long stay, but he doesn't seem happy.
Good injury minute. That's what's happening in the news. Promo time. Football is back. Let's have some bed music for this.
Come on, we're back together.
Hang on.
Let's get in the spirit.
Football is back. Celebrate by. No, this isn't right.
This is odd.
Let's
This
hear
is odd.
something else.
An odd mood.
What else you got?
Strange mood.
Ooh. Is this the same one?
Let's turn that up.
Turn this up in my.
This is it.
This is a little too much for this.
Well, I don't know what the copy is.
You really have to earn that. Give me one more.
Mm.
Kind of like that though. Ooh. Yes. Oh.
What is?
Commence promo. Football is back. Celebrate by watching as teams across the league take the field for training camp back together weekend, presented by none other than YouTube. With 2 full days of practices, player interviews, mic'd up moments, and fan fests across the league, it's a can't-miss NFL reunion, NFL Network, and NFL Plus. You got to check out this NFL Plus, by the way. We're going to be on NFL Plus this year. We got some meetings. We're talking about them today.
It's the new thing. It's very essential.
What, meetings?
Well, no, definitely not those. But like the NFL Plus meetings, I could take or leave.
I am very excited about some ideas we have for NFL Plus this year. You guys on the same page?
Yeah.
Can't wait to share it with you, the audience. Anyway, NFL Network and NFL Plus have you covered with coverage on Saturday, July 29th and Sunday, July 30th, with additional coverage on ABC and ESPN. Go to NFL.com/backtogetherweekend for ways to watch. And we will be right back after this with the Rapsheet.
Get your
Hands up. All right, we're back. Little listener note before we throw it to Rapsheet. This was recorded 24 hours ago with Ian, and it just so happened, Greggy, while we're talking to him, he's increasingly distracted on his phone, and then he does like a walkout right after we're finished. And it turns out, and you had clarified this with a follow-up text.
Yes, as the ATN Media Insider's apprentice, I reached out to Ian, and yes, he was working on the Justin Herbert contract, which he broke on Tuesday. And you could have figured out that we taped it ahead of time because Ian stumbled over that many times in this interview. But yes, that was why he was kind of giving us not his full attention at some points in the interview, but he handled it like a pro.
I thought it was a little showy, the walkout and things of that nature. But it turns out I have to, and you'll hear me kind of bury him a little bit.
Yeah, we critiqued him.
But in this case, yes, he there was a reason why he was doing that, and I'll give him a little pop there.
I mean, we'll listen to it, but I believe he went so far as to suggest that he was just putting on an act just to walk out of the room.
Right.
And actually, he's working incredibly hard.
Big story.
Yeah, that's why they call him the Rapsheet, the insider, and a little shot across the bow of the Pellraiser while we're here. All right, let's throw it to that conversation. Welcome back. Joining us now is a man for over a decade now has been.
What is this music? Are we at a
What
Phil
do you think
Collins
it is?
concert?
There it is. What do they call it? The Rorschach
That's
test?
a type of test, yeah.
However you hear it, it's very interesting to see how different people hear it. Like Kyle Brandt was on the program, I think during the pandemic, and he said it sounded like an episode of Silk Stockings that he might have been watching in his teen years. Everyone seems to have different interpretations of it. You say Phil Collins. Seems a little sultry for Genesis, but maybe Collins solo
I
work.
assume I'm waiting on the drums to come in, you know?
Yeah. This is the guy driving back to his apartment after he learned that his partner had been shot. And his girlfriend or wife is
On some episode of Magnum P.I.
yeah, you're too close to the case. And yeah. Ian Rapoport, everybody.
What's up?
Rapsheet, we have let's start there. Let's start on a positive.
You got some negative
here.
stuff coming?
Usually something comes up negative, but like one of the big faux pas of our show is if we have a guest and they're like on their phone during an interview but Rapsheet, it's kind of his brand. So I think maybe you get the pass. So if you
Appreciate
have to
it.
stay on top of things as you do, as you did today, in fact, or earlier or yesterday with Saquon Barkley.
Today. Oh,
Said-
yesterday. Oh, you
we
messed
got
it
it.
up.
We figured it out.
You messed
And
it
then
up,
I
yeah.
corrected myself, but then you brought more attention to it.
'Cause
So now
you messed
just
it
an
up.
issue.
Taping this a day earlier.
Make this make sense,
Okay.
please, because it's very. Saquon
Yeah.
Barkley is tagged.
Yeah.
He signs is it technically the franchise? Doesn't matter. Why would he choose the small amount of incentives and then set himself up to be tagged again next year? Make it make sense because you broke the story about Barkley's deal with the Giants.
Yeah. At yesterday, even though it's actually today, but yesterday, I was I found out at midnight that this deal was happening. There's some things that needed to happen, and so I knew that it could probably break around 7 Eastern time, and I'm on the West Coast like you guys, so I was up at 3:30 a.m. holding my phone like this,
Oh, annoying.
waiting to hit the button. Which what if something goes wrong? What if
Come on, bro.
what if a physical doesn't go well, which I knew it was, but what if there's contract language that isn't good? I'm like, I better be up for this. Or what if someone else, had it 45 minutes before and I was sleeping, and then you're like, oh, that's
Right.
embarrassing.
Are you
that way.
posting information on X and Threads at this point? Duplicate type of
When I
tweets?
remember, I put it on Threads, yes. Threads is we'll see what happens there.
It's interesting being an insider. Before we get into some more Barkley stuff, let's just a quick aside here.
Okay.
It seems like a terrible job. Like a great job in the visibility, and you make a tremendous amount of money. Your salary is outrageous.
Definitely not true, but okay.
But there's
I don't do it for the salary, Dan.
I get it. There's such a I did ask him before we started whether he's graduated to having a private car taking him from locations during his visit to Southern California. I wasn't joking. I feel like you might be able to get that into a contract negotiation. That's a conversation
I
for
like
you
to
and
be
your
in
agent.
charge of my own stuff.
Yeah. But my point is, it feels like it's such a thin line of what you could end up getting buried for as an insider, and people are always looking for something. I think he had a tweet last month about a college coach that had an unfortunate ending to his career, and then I saw you popping up at websites and people
Yeah,
getting on top of
I
it.
saw that
And I read
too.
your tweet, and I'm like, this was worth, I just feel like it's a
What
tough
did I
gig.
say? It was about Pat Fitzgerald, and I said a dramatic conclusion or something like that. And originally I had a dramatic and correct conclusion,
Right.
but I don't really love to get out there and put my opinion on things because honestly, I do not know. So I said dramatic, which is something that is sudden, something that comes out of nowhere and is sudden, and that a coach who'd been there 18 years getting fired was pretty dramatic, and people took it in a way that
I have a
don't really
theory.
know.
Wait, you
Without
got in
naming
trouble
ni-
for this? I
Well, they
missed.
parsing your
It's
language?
just there was
Just caught heat for it.
a lot of parsing language, and but here's the thing, I don't think it's easy to get yourself in trouble. I don't think it is, because everything that I would say in an interview, whether it's here or on radio or on a show or on our shows or literally anything, it's all intentional. I don't trip and fall and say something offensive. You know what I mean? So it's not like I have to I don't really give my opinion on a lot of things, but I've been not giving my opinion on things for 12 years. It's not very difficult now.
Mhm.
So whatever I would tweet, I would say in a show or say to you, it's not very hard to not.
You
get in
don't fly
trouble.
off the handle much. Sometimes
But you want to
I
sometimes,
think
don't
out
you?
loud, so sometimes people get upset. You
Yeah.
get upset.
Sometimes
I do
it's
get upset. But I don't fly off the handle ever.
Do you feel like you still have as much? I'm sure when you're a young journalist and you break news, there's that rush of excitement, the thrill. Do you feel like the thrill is still
getting the Barkley
inside of your?
Yeah. That was fun.
world?
That was fun yesterday morning, because obviously we're not taping this a day early. It's
No,
It's
it's
the day of.
sometime it was taped.
um
and
that
so-
was so there's a lot of stress, and if someone calls and say, hey, I got this contract extension, put it out now, that's fun and exciting, and then you do it and it's woohoo, and then it's over. The Barkley one was stressful because that had to sit for 8 hours, so that was not a very fun night of sleep last night, honestly.
Sure.
But then you hit send, and then you watch everyone's like reaction come in, and you knew like I knew that nobody knew this was happening. So to watch the reaction was like, and it was positive. It's all positive. So I do enjoy that. I take the losses less bad than I used to because there's always something else. Like if I get burned on something, or someone was supposed to give me something and they give it to someone else, or I thought I had something and it ended up getting out a different way, like the DeAndre Hopkins scoop, I felt like I had a pretty good handle on that one. I've done a lot of DeAndre Hopkins stuff, and I did not break it. I had the money first, but I didn't have the team
Who
first.
broke it?
Doug Ked.
Patriots.
Kedheads out there were rejoicing.
Big day for the
Former Patriots writer. But yeah, I was annoyed, but it's like, all right, like get the money, get the next. Like it's such a long game that I handle the losses a little bit better.
It's
But
the opposite of Bill
Interesting.
Parcells, who said as he got older, he no longer had the mental defenses to deal with losing. And in my little experience, just as a sports fan, I feel like I can identify with that. I think it gets harder as you get older.
The deal with the losing?
Yeah,
I feel the
coming from a
opposite.
Patriots fan, but that's,
Yeah.
that's
and,
fine.
and other sports.
see,
Celtics, tennis.
losing still-
I'm in a post-Patriots world. Yeah.
losing still sucks. Like, don't get me wrong, but there's just so much that it's like like I work as hard as I possibly can on one thing, but then when it's over, it's always like, I mean, you see on TV, like, let's say a big contract happens. Well, then it's like, okay, you talk about your contract for 20 seconds, and it's like, what's the next? It's always sort of like on to the next. So, like, mentality wise, like, that actually helps because you move on so quickly.
It's funny because the insider game also there's rivals, and you have a rival at ESPN, I believe, that you guys been duking it out for years.
Yep.
Doug Ked, all of a sudden.
Well, the Ked heads out there,
that's-
but it hurts. I would guess it hurts less to get beat by the Ked heads than by a Schefter. Now we have someone in the building of the NFL media universe named Tom Pelissero, who you're golf buddies with. You seem to be close friends with Pelissero. He has his own drop on this show. He's the Pell Raiser. Now, does it bring you a level of frustration or anger that we don't have an Ian drop when you are delivering news when we're going through it in our rundown
Didn't
of the
you
week?
used to?
Did we?
Well, I would only say, and this is not personal at all, but the Pelissero, the Pell Raiser drop has just become immense.
It's taken off. Yeah.
I
We don't know
haven't-
Tom,
I
but
haven't
like, it
sensed-
seems like he would like it. Maybe let him know.
I
Does- yeah,
haven't
does he know?
sensed. I haven't sensed the momentum toward
Wow.
that you guys have.
Oh.
Wow.
Huh.
In fact, I actually didn't know it existed until right now.
Towards
I don't
Tom
think
in
Tom
general,
does.
or towards
No,
this
plenty of
sound drop?
momentum for Tom.
Because it seems like Tom's got some momentum, and
He does.
that's tricky having a rivalry within the building. You've dealt with that before, and you proved victorious.
Yeah, but whenever Tom,
Who are you going to kill next, Ian?
well, no. Whenever Tom gets something, he deserves it. And so, like, he and I were bang on the Trevon Diggs extension yesterday. Again, because
Good.
this is not right.
Yeah. Hammer it in.
And
Hammer that nail in.
Yep. And so when he gets it, he deserves it. So, like, there's been definitely things that I thought I was going to break that he breaks, but it's always better than the alternative.
Mm.
And so, like, it's
He's
all
about Schefter.
I'm just saying, it's always better than the alternative. Any single
Schefter
way.
is the alternative.
Schefter is the devil.
Plus, Tom deserves it. He's done great.
Are you a better golfer than him?
Yeah.
You guys golf a lot.
Why?
It's a lot of golf.
And when we played, I shot 86. He did not.
Mark, what's your take on golfing for middle-aged men?
I see the attraction. I personally don't have 7 or 8 hours to spend time doing it.
What's your
Ouch.
thing?
My thing.
Yeah, everyone has to have a thing. What's your thing?
A lot of it can't be mentioned, but it's not golf.
Can't be mentioned.
Well.
This audience isn't. Is this audience not numb to your antics by now? How long have you guys had this? Whatever this
We
is.
don't ask him what he does in his own
It's
time.
the podcast.
Okay?
I think they're largely
This is not-
they could surmise.
It's kept us employed.
I had a friend in college, or sort of a friend, an acquaintance in college, who was riding way downtown in the city with another one of my buddies, and they happened to be on the same subway. And one guy gets off, and he looks at the other guy, and he goes, "Don't follow me." And I imagine that's kind of what you're like.
I can relate to that.
That's very much a Sessler move, except he just wouldn't say anything. He just would leave. Wait, why? Do you think that Saquon Barkley going on this Zoom call with the running back somehow like took leverage away? Because apparently, I don't know if Florio was on it or people just heard what was in it. Everyone had the idea on the Zoom call that he was going to camp. Anyways, why even? I guess you could make an extra $900,000 out of this deal, but why do it at all? Like why not hold out for more? Why not at least get a promise not to tag?
John Mara does not do that, is the reason. And so, like, there are things in negotiating where you say, like, I can get this or I can get that. Some things are a non-starter, right? It's like, like a fully guaranteed deal for quarterbacks for everyone not named Deshaun Watson was a non-starter. And I think all the quarterbacks would.
Or Kirk Cousins. The greats, the greats of the game.
Future Hall of Fame.
He was great. He was great in that Netflix show. I assume you guys have watched.
We will be talking about it on Thursday's program.
Taped on Wednesday?
It's all no.
Taped on Thursday, maybe for a Friday release.
Got it. But like so anyway, why did he do the deal? He was probably going to come in a couple weeks into camp. Okay? History has not been kind to the players who come in late to camp. A lot of times they get injured. I think when Bosa did one of his holdouts, he ended up with a hamstring injury, didn't play for 4 weeks. Like, being in shape and getting ready to go kill it this season is important. I think when all your friends are at training camp and you're not, I think that sucks. And like, look, either his options were hold out and sign the tag or not hold out and get extra money and get a little up front. Like, absent a long-term deal, I thought this was a totally fine solution. And I think we're probably going to see more of it now that some other players are going to be like, I don't know when Josh Jacobs is going to come in, but like this structure would probably make sense to him too if the Raiders were willing to do it.
Yeah, do you get the sense, because the way it's reported, he was seen boarding a plane, he's leaving town. Is that something where it could be, a little bit more heat to it than your typical holdout situation?
I got the sense, like, they didn't do a new contract, obviously, so that's the number one goal. But I got the sense it was okay. Like, they didn't agree on where he should be, but I didn't feel like anybody was like throwing things against the wall and hating each other. It was more like we disagree on value. Okay, like let's try to move forward.
There was an interesting report in The Athletic, though, by a former guest of the show, Vic Tayfor, who was kind of like, why all the spin after the Josh Jacobs deal that it was so close, essentially saying without saying that McDaniels is maybe trying to send a message to Mark Davis that we gave it a good shot. This is a guy you really like, or maybe sending a message to the fans that, hey, we got close, and was kind of saying without saying. I'm putting words in the mouth here, but that it's a little bit more of some old McDaniels off the field chicanery, which if you kind of look at it, it's been piling up. It's like they signed Derek Carr, he's gone. Renfro's on the trade block, maybe not. Darren Waller, you sign him and he's gone. Devontae Adams is grumbling a little. There is some like McDaniels Denver-y vibes there.
See, I don't get the vibes. I understand what you're saying, because like obviously at some point you need to win, and if they don't win this year, then there'll be obviously questions, just like there is with anyone who doesn't win. I think they were pretty close, and in fact, like my opinion means nothing. But, like, I'm talking to a lot of people as these deals happen, and, like, there were definitely moments on that Monday where I thought a deal was going to happen. So, like, I didn't think it was spin. I really thought, like, as I'm preparing for, like, we're about to do a show, and we're going to do a show at 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific.
What
Monday.
days?
It's franchise tag day.
Got it.
And, like, the producers are like, what's your topics? I'm telling them, like, I think there's a real chance Josh Jacobs gets done. So I didn't think it was spin. But they were like really upfront with him. So even like our spin kind of doesn't really matter. The only thing that matters is the Raiders talking to him. And I think they were really like transparent and upfront about what happened and how close they got.
I want to shift gears because I feel like over these summer months, there have been these sometimes valid, invalid, but just whispers that Bill Belichick, Robert Kraft in New England, like, is there tension there? Do they really want?
I saw that there was a Tom Curran thing that I saw.
Yeah. And like I mean, you hear about how Kraft, I thought, went out of his way to defend Matt Patricia and what happened last year to some degree. He's gone out of his way to praise Jared Mayo and the fact that they really love him so much. Like, is there a world where Bill Belichick is on the hot seat to some degree this season?
I don't view it like that first of all, I think they're going to be fine, or maybe more than fine. I think, Bill O'Brien was a very good hire. I think Mac Jones was not coached very well at all last year. And, I don't know how you're supposed to judge a second-year quarterback when he gets injured and then was coached poorly. That's just – and nothing against Matt Patricia, good defensive coach. He just is not an offensive coordinator. They need to do better. But are you asking me, do I think Robert Kraft would, outright fire Bill Belichick after the season? I don't see it like that.
Is there tension there?
I mean, I don't – I think they agree on how to move forward, and they agreed on where things needed to go after last season, which was not good enough. I think they would both like to win. But, to me, tension is one side wants one thing, the other side wants something different. I don't think this is a GM and an owner or coach and an owner not on the same page. I think it's both wish there were more wins, but I think they're okay as far as how to proceed.
Belichick mentioning the amount of actual cash they were spending to me was an eye opener. A red flag.
Here's the quote from Kraft. It was in March when asked about
when we were all standing in the flowers in March.
Yes, whether Bill's job could be in jeopardy. And Kraft said, look, I'd like him to break Don Shula's record, but I'm not. That's for all-time wins for head coaches, but I'm not looking for any of our players to get great stats. We're about winning and doing whatever we can to win, and that's what our focus is now. And this is where I thought it was interesting. It's very important to me that we make the playoffs, and that's what I hope happens next year, which led to me and a lot of other people saying that sounded very close to a playoffs or bust mandate from the owner. But of course, this isn't just any other coach. But you don't see it that way. It's there's too much history for it to be as straightforward as that.
He's the greatest coach of all time.
Right.
And I know this whole organization has been built on not caring as much about the records, whatever individual records, whatever they are, right? But he's about to become the greatest coach of all time. And let's say they go 8-9 this year. I don't know, miss the playoffs. Then he'd still be 9 away from the all-time record. I don't think that's a reason to keep anyone, but I don't see Robert Kraft being all right, you're out, Gerard Mayo, come in. I would be beyond surprised.
You used to cover the Pats for the Herald back in the day. You ever have any texts with Bill, just about golf or anything else?
I will decline to answer that question.
Oh. Bon Jovi?
Is he still a Bon Jovi fan, or did he kind of move on?
I thought that was.
They're actually
some guys they
friends.
stick with their.
So you return his text, just not mine.
One of my favorite Bill Belichick interactions was I ran into him in Indy, and for the combine, and I hadn't seen him in a little bit, and so I was like, "This is great! We'll get to catch up." And I'm thinking we're gonna talk about football, and he's just gonna tell me everyone they're gonna sign in free agency.
Yeah.
And that ended up being a 30-minute conversation on horse racing. And a full breakdown of which track is best to watch races on, and why he loves it, and why I love it, and then about fashion and women's fashion and hats. It was amazing.
Wow,
he's the best.
That's the podcast. I need Bill Belichick on women's horse racing fashion.
If you wanted Bill Belichick on this podcast, which obviously you'd have big shoes to fill after today, but I think you could probably get him if you were listen, here's what we're going to ask you about. No football and just all the non-football topics that he loves
Eric,
so much.
It's a good move.
Can you make a note of this? We're going to have a post-production meeting about how to pitch Bill. Last question, because we know you got to go. Busy man.
I'm getting so many texts.
Or tomorrow.
So many texts and calls during this conversation.
So Josh McDaniels, we'll see what happens with him this year. Bill Belichick, probably safe, but maybe not. In a couple of weeks, we do our annual hot butt rankings of head coaches. Like last year, for example, everyone's like, oh, Matt Rule, his butt's on fire. And sure enough, it was. Do you sense any coaches out there that are under an immense amount of pressure at the Rule level to survive to Halloween, for instance?
I don't sense anybody like that. I think last year going in, I think we all kind of knew all right, maybe the Panthers, if they don't win, it could be not. It's not really like that this year. Now, these things can happen so fast. I certainly did not see Frank Reich coming last year. So this, the way a season materializes, I can, these can kind of take a shape of its own, but I mean, maybe if you you could read through the list of teams and I could come up with something.
Right. This
but-
is a hope season. You're about to visit half these teams. You don't want to be
well, it's also like
putting their
there
name
is
on the
hope.
streets.
So like I was at the Rams today. right?
Commanders is an obvious one if they don't win, just
Yes,
because
that
it's a
makes
new
Yeah,
owner.
but new owners like.
But they're not going to do it like during the season necessarily. But
Right.
I'm
That's
saying
not
they
what a new
probably
owner-
need to get a winning record.
They're probably one, but like they also could be good. I mean, it's like
Sure,
I was,
all these teams could be good. The
Right.
Browns, if they stink, you would think will make a change.
but like Deshaun Watson, only on the field. Deshaun Watson has been a very, 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 very good quarterback, except for last year. Like, I still think he's going to end up as a very good player, and if that's the case, they should be good.
Sure.
But like the Rams are a good example. I went there yesterday.
Yeah.
I have no earthly idea how good the Rams are going to be. They are very young. They still have some really good players, but they have a lot of players I have not heard of, and they have a coach who's in a much better place this year, and I think is going to love coaching this team. So they could finish 4-13, or they could finish 10-7. I have no idea.
If they are 2-5 at the trading deadline, though,
Ooh.
don't you think they're a team I'm kind of circling for that, and the Titans would maybe be another where the trade deadline doesn't pop too much
About the Bucks.
in the NFL. Maybe the Bucks, teams
like-
that have some veterans, if they're really buried, I would think that the Rams, I don't know,
Well, like Matthew
would
Stafford.
think about pivoting.
Move on from.
Right, but like then it's like a lot of salary. That's the problem with the trade deadline, and like I know it's the way it's constructed, so whatever. But like
It's too early.
it's so hard to move someone with a big salary in October. Nobody has the space, or whenever the trade deadline is.
What about in LA though? Brandon Staley. He's someone I feel like if they flounder again after the way last season ended, talented young coach, but like that feels sort of hot seatish to me.
I mean, 2 new coordinators, and sometimes 2 new coordinators is the start of something not good.
Mhm.
Also, like I think Kellen Moore is going to be really, really good, and they should be running more of Staley's defense this year. Like, if they're strangely bad, I would say it could get late early there, but they should be good. You know, like they have really good players.
Yeah.
Like they should be. I think they should be really good.
Ian Rapoport, you've said it all. I didn't even need to be the peacemaker this time because they're just tranquil
Yeah.
vibes here.
It's much more comfortable.
It's before the season. I mean, I just met Leah,
Mhm.
Ian's lovely wife. It's kind of a power move, but I appreciated it. I think it's the first spouse I've ever seen brought to the content summit. But you
Yeah.
have to be high enough on the totem pole, I think.
This is
to
what I'm
get it
talking
done.
about.
But you know what? Everyone, I talked some tennis. You know, it was great. It was
Big
great.
tennis
I hope she didn't have to sit through the.
She's a Sabalenka
Summit
fan,
itself.
which
No.
really
Big Sabalenka fan.
impresses me.
All right, gotta go.
All right, there he goes. He said it all. Where could he be going?
Oh, he's answering.
He's on the phone, but
Who's the call
could it
from?
really be?
Just say it.
what could it really be that's that important?
It's like a source or something.
He completely forgot it we existed as he exited this room.
I know, but I think it's, and thank you to Ian for coming.
Yeah.
Definitely, like, it makes him feel like a big man to walk out on the phone like that. With just drop the headset and get on the phone and walk out.
He was talking to somebody.
I know.
I don't think I don't think anyone was
voices
there.
coming out of the phone. I don't know if it was anybody of
I don't
importance.
think.
He could be
He's performing.
scheduling a dental
I think that was a
appointment or
full
something, but-
performance, and I think
Wow.
it's the brand. It's a way to show this was a thing I did. Like you said, it's already forgotten because now I'm on the phone with Bill Belichick. Or
Sure.
something.
Well, it's a crutch, but it's also an assist. Kyle Brandt always points out when he does the photo recap of like the NFL talent photo, it's always Rapsheet with the phone, like he's looking at the phone. So it's sort of
It's a
like
branding.
it's his bit, but it also gets him out of uncomfortable having to interact with lesser humans.
Can we get an instant replay of him storming out of the studio?
Well,
Do we have those capabilities?
Kicks the
behind
chair
glass?
back as he leaves.
Not in real time.
We'll work on that in post.
All right, we're gonna hire someone $197,000 a year just to have us like a slow motion replay retainer. But maybe on Instagram, people could see the walkout by
Sure.
Rapoport.
Yeah, we can make that happen.
All right, good stuff. Any takeaways from that? I think I agree with him. I thought it was good and Ian knows how things work on the Patriot way because he lived up there and covered that team. So I think that there is something to be said for the way he was putting that. It was like, yeah, we read the quote or see the quote from Kraft, and it makes it seem like it's a cut and dry thing because almost any other owner, you see that, be like, yes, that is very clear that team needs to win 9 or 10 games or else. But I think Kraft is not a guy that's going to do anything in a hasty manner. I think he's an excellent owner, and it would take something truly, I think, we talk about Hellraiser. It'd have to be a hell raising in New England, like a 4-13.
But that
or
schedule is so
real
brutal.
fighting.
Even his scenario he laid out to me, I immediately thought worst case scenario. If he won 8 games and he was 9 away from beating Shula, then I'm just thinking, well, what if he wins like 8 games the next year and then he's 1 away for like the whole thing could be excruciating and sad. So the thing
It's
that they got to do is just win 10 games, win 11 games, surprise some people, and then you don't have to worry about it.
I thought what he pointed out, though, was that there isn't, like, it's not setting the table for a clash. They want the same things. But another milquetoast season by the Patriots puts you in a weird place.
Milquetoast, yes, I think it's a little uncomfortable. I do think, and we'll see, because we all fall into the trap, and we did last year with the AFC West. The AFC East looks very good on paper. If it really did play out, where the Jets, Dolphins, and Bills were all big-time teams, and the Pats go 5-12, then what? Like, what would necessitate some type of like watershed moment in New England? It might be a true cratering. I don't see it happening, but I mean, it's.
I just
possible.
think from the Kraft angle, for the point that he's not like a knee-jerk reaction type guy. Like, if you're Robert Kraft and you move on from Bill Belichick, you have to follow that up with another coach who people are going to be comparing to Bill Belichick. He needs to succeed right away.
You don't want to be that guy.
person? Although
You don't want to be the guy. You want to be the guy that replaces the guy.
I feel like we know the guy, unless Belichick starts hitting a hot streak and lasts another 5 years, which is possible. And that guy's Jared Mayo.
Right.
Well, I'm just saying, if I'm Jared Mayo,
You want to follow up Bill Belichick?
I want to do that.
Well, that's the thing, is things are different this year. Kraft released this statement about the Mayo hiring, which they never do. They actually finally it's not breaking news, but they did finally on the Patriots website tell the public, just if you click coaches, who the Patriots coaches are this year. But that was just this week.
And Joe Judge was.
And there's only it's only like 7 of them, and 4 are related to Belichick.
And Judge was essentially promoted, which is mysterious.
Joe Judge was promoted to assistant.
Hey, man.
head
Some
coach.
people, man. Some people. All right, good stuff. Thank you again to Rapsheet for joining us, and we will be back with one more show this week. So thank you for being along on the ride as we, the beginning of training camp, and as we head toward a new year. We are rolling now. Let us go. Marc, the floor is yours to say goodbye.
Well, farewell to you.
You, being the listeners, farewell.
It's like 2 a days.
Heed the call.